Hey there, thanks for tuning in to my very first episode of What I've Learned So Far podcast. I'm really glad that you're here. Like I said, this is my very first episode, so I just kind of wanted to introduce myself a little bit, tell you a little bit about me and what the podcast is going to be about. I would say the thing that really brought me here most recently, I say most recently, but it's really the podcast is really like the culmination of what I think are all my life experiences. I have had a very colorful life, I would say. Lots of adventures, lots of ups and downs. I haven't been rich, but I've been rich enough. I've definitely been poor. I would say that rich is better, but man, I had some really cool adventures in other countries where you don't need as much money to see really beautiful and amazing things, and traveling around isn't as expensive. So I definitely wouldn't give that up. I had this epiphany. I was reading some books by Napoleon Hill when I was, I don't know, maybe about my late 20s. And one of the things that had happened was I went to go see a psychiatrist, psychologist, psychiatrist, both of them, because one of them couldn't give me meds. And so he like transferred me to the other one. And yeah, they gave me like some Paxil and some something else and some Zoloft. And that was at one point that I realized that they were just playing like roulette, because yeah, they gave me something. I don't know if it was Paxil. There was one other one. I think it was another one that they gave me. I mean, I was half a step away from drooling on myself. I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'm not sad anymore, but I'm just nothing. I'm absolutely blank. And I'd realized that was no way to go to live my life. I really reconnected my relationship with God, found a purpose and a worthiness and an excitement about life in addition to the books that I was reading, and decided I'm going to go to Chicago. And I spent a long time in Chicago, and I got to do some really amazing things, some really cool things. Um, Riding a camel just popped in my head. I got to race a camel. That was actually quite scary, and I could have died. I really could have died. No, really, that they should not have allowed that. But regardless, lots of wonderful. I mean, just beautiful restaurants and parties, and interesting people to talk to. But I did feel like I was coming to a place that the people that I was around had everything that I thought that I wanted, but they didn't seem happy. They didn't seem like they had a joy. They didn't, I just realized that I was chasing a false idol, is what comes to mind. And yeah, that probably was an idol. Sorry, Lord. So of course, all sorts of things happen, in between there. But then I decided, okay, so obviously it's that I need to travel. Like that's always been the goal. And like, me chasing fame isn't working out. It's not even what I want. I don't even know if I'm really even super built that way. Um, so then I just start traveling, and for about 2 years, I'm south of the border. I'm Nicaragua, Guatemala, Belize, of course, Mexico. I feel like I'm missing someplace, but the point is like just down there, just trying to do the Margaritaville thing. It's not Margaritaville. I mean, sometimes it is, but they leave out that if you're going to go be an expat, an expatriate in another country, that you miss your peeps. You really miss your peeps. It another time in my life that it would have been really nice to have someone there with me, but I don't know if I would have been able to have those experiences had I been with someone. Because when you're all by yourself, you can meet someone at a restaurant or a group of people, and they're like, hey, we're going down to the beach to have a luau. You want to come? You're like, sure. So that freedom, that kind of that you can just do anything. I liked that. I just never knew what was going to happen, but I was always taken care of. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I mean, stuff like that, like don't go with a bunch of strangers to the beach. They might chop you up, but They didn't chop me up, and I'm here to tell the tale. So yeah, I was in the Yucatan Peninsula for quite a while, and I mean, just at some point, whether it was like run-ins with the police or stories that I was hearing about the narcos coming after anybody that's making any money, it was just like I can't live here. So I came back. Uh, 2020 was about to happen, and the election was about to happen, or the election, the vaccine, the COVID, all of that, right? We're all around that 2020 time frame. And so when I came back to Texas, I started working as a technology consultant because when you think of me, that's probably what you think of as technology consultant. No, I mean, I could do the job, but I hated it, and I really didn't care for the spirit of the companies that I was working for. I mean, so many people talk about working on your dreams when you have time after work, but the last thing you want to do after work is continue to look at a computer screen after you've been doing that all day long. You don't want to. You want to stretch and get out and go outside and go do something with your life instead of just let me sit in front of the computer for some more time. So it was really a blessing when I got laid off. I mean, again, in that time, I had gotten married. I saw the election was stolen. I thought we were going to have a civil war, but for the grace of God, I would be down in the January 6th gulags right now because I had every intention of going, but I didn't have anyone to go with. Oh, so being single actually worked out for me, because apparently me and the and the hubs would be in the gulags. No, it's actually not funny because many of them are still there. They never got due process. I mean, it's just don't get me started on that. That's a whole separate situation. So, seeing all that, I was really fearful. So, when you go out looking for someone in a fearful state of mind, you might attract a fearful person. And, for me, divorce is not an option. It was not an option. It's not an option. And I don't even think, because I truly think that really any two Christians, I mean, if we're the Christians that we say that we are, if we say that the God that, the power, the God that parted the Red Sea, raised Jesus from the grave, set a bush on fire, but it didn't burn up, like that power is in us. That's what the Bible says. So I don't really see how there's any excuse for really Christians to get divorced. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't reasons to get divorced, but what I'm saying is it all boils down to selfishness, and we're just incredibly selfish, I think, and our society tells us to be selfish. And it's very interesting because I'm starting to think there's a big difference between being selfish and really loving yourself. I think that a lot of times our society takes words and twists them around and makes them mean something else or something not as good, or who knows, maybe they're trying to gatekeep on some ideas. That has now, I mean, now that I've been reading all these books and more and more about mindset, I'm skipping around. Let me go back to I got married, I got divorced. It was finalized in May. Part of the issues with the divorce was mindset, and I was not going to let all the pain go to waste. It's like, okay, here I am. Now what am I going to do? Am I going to react fearfully and, go get some job that I don't want and tell them, oh, I really want this job, and change all my LinkedIn and be like, this is what I'm about and this is what I love, and and I can't stop talking about marketing automations. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. And I just didn't want to do that, and it's interesting that I've come back to this. So, really with all that vaccine stuff, it really made me think a lot about wellness. I mean, I've always been kind of into health and fitness, but just the holistic wellness. I mean, all of the medications that they're putting people on. I took care of my grandmother for a while, and it was very obvious to me that her doctors were not talking to each other about different kinds of medications. And I was like, oh, that's not okay. Like you have no idea how they interact. So when the vaccines came along, I mean, I felt like I was watching that in slow motion. I'm like, am I taking crazy pills here? Am I the only person? Like, I mean, that wrecked me, honestly. It messed me all up. I was like, I don't know what's happening. Um, as I gained clients, what I realized is that everything is in our mind. Like, I don't know how else to help people change without telling them to change their mind. And the more that I'm coaching people and the more that I'm telling them what I know to be the truth, the more that I realize that it's not always what I believe. A lot of times it's not what I believe. It's there, but there's so much negativity and fear and doubt rolling around in my head that it just became very obvious to me that I need to heal. I really need to get to another level if I'm going to help other people get to another level. So that sent me on this mindset journey, and I've been reading a ton of books. And I mean, just of those books, it's been the Bible, and just things seem like they're starting to connect in a way that they haven't ever connected for me. Like I'm ready for another level of consciousness. Like I'm ready to be still and know that he is God. I'm ready to think of things that are lovely and good and of good rapport, and take every thought captive and make it obedient to what Christ says. All of that. What if all those verses are even more than what they appear on the surface? And that's part of what I'm going through in this journey. So, full circle, here we are, and that's the end of my first podcast. That's the end of my introduction. Many more stories of adventures and failure and triumph and ups and downs that I would love to share with you guys. So I really appreciate it again. Let me know if there are people you think I should talk to or topics that you think that I should discuss. In the meantime, please like, comment, share, subscribe. What other verbs can you do with this podcast?